how did you approach the experience of making the last film? Because you knew that it was going to be the last time for so many things.
Right. I mean, in a way, I don't think we let that factor into our everyday thinking. That was only because also when you start on a film like that, you can't afford to be getting emotional from day one, going onto, for instance, the Atrium set, going, oh, this is the last time I'll be on the set, with 18 months still shooting in front of you. So you can't you've got to wait a while for the nostalgia to be worth it, if you like. So I think it wasn't until sort of the last couple of months that we really started go, and it was when people started finishing, you know, it's when we had Alan Rickman's last ever day on Potter, you know, David Thewlis's last ever day. That was when it started getting kind of more emotional, and you became kind of more aware that, wow, this is really something that we've done here for 10 years, and now it's over. So it was very emotional towards the end, but I don't think we let it affect us on it. We weren't weeping from day to day openly.
Last day for you to shoot, was it a very sad moment then?
Oh God! I mean, on the very last day, yeah, I did cry a lot that day. We all did, just because it's suddenly, I don't know, it feels like, you know, I don't know if people cry when they leave school or whatever, but it felt like it was the end of an era, and feels like we're suddenly moving beyond our adolescence, childhood, whatever, and it's yeah. So it was the last day was very, very sad and things, but you know, you move on, and it's just, what's wonderful is that the film is so good, and this last film is so fantastic, and I'm so proud of it that I really, you know, we couldn't have gone out on a better note.
This is a culmination of a decade of your life, so you know, there's so many like fans have such invested so what do you feel like fans have kind of experienced in this past decade, and you know, from reaction when they talk to you, or like when you see it in their eyes?
I mean, what's lovely is that I get a lot of people coming up to me saying, you know, you've been such a part of my childhood, and you've been you know, and that's just the loveliest thing to hear, and I never get tired of hearing that, because when you've been, you know, it's just a genuinely lovely thing to have brought so much entertainment and happiness and excitement and inspiration and magic into somebody's childhood. That's a lovely thing to have been able to be a part of. I also think that over the last 10 years, the fans have been gratified, or have found very gratifying the fact that, you know, the quality, we never stopped pushing to make each film greater than the last. And I think that kind of effort and that kind of the work that we all put in, I think shows in the films, and I think they're very grateful for that as well. And it showed that a big studio franchise movie can still have a huge amount of integrity and care and attention to detail and love put into it, and that it's not just, despite the fact that they are the biggest grossing franchise of all time, it's not just a money-making machine. And because you've got a lot of young, hungry people working on that set, you know, people like myself and Rupert and Emma, but also our directors Alfonso Cuarón and David Yates and everyone in between, you know, wanting to prove that we are, that particularly for the cast, you know, wanting to prove that we're good and that we belong here and that we've learned. So I think it's been, yeah, I mean, I think the fans have reacted to that very well, as the fact that there's been just so much put into this series.
What have you been able to take away from this? Because you haven't been shooting in the past year, so
No.
So now if you can kind of sit back and look at this decade, and what have you kind of learned for yourself?
I mean, I've learned everything that you learn about yourself in your teenage years, in that you're not as smart as you think you are, and that and that there's a lot more to life than being a teenager and all that boring teenage angst. So I've come out the other side of that now, which has been nice, and that was helped by my relationships with the crew and with all the people on the film who were there every day with me and you know, and inspired me often. And I think, you know, the thing that has really hit home over the last year is, and not that I didn't always kind of know this, but that every opportunity I get from now until the rest of my life, I owe to Harry Potter. You know, I would never have, you know, I'm doing my second show on Broadway at the moment. I would never have done even my first show, either in London or on Broadway, had it not been for the opportunity, you know, the opportunity was given to me by Potter. So yeah, I will owe everything to Harry forever.
It felt like you were, because the last time I talked to you, it was for part one, and you said that you were shooting 1 and 2 kind of at the same time.
Yes.
So how do you kind of deal with, because obviously there's character arcs that you kind of have to deal with. So how do you kind of flip between back and forth, and are you proud of the work that you've done in part 2?
Yeah, I really am, because it's like it's a different, I mean, it's like I'm a different actor, I think, in part 2 from part 1. Part 2 is the only film out of all 7 that I can watch and go, I am really happy with my performance in it, and not that there's stuff I wouldn't do differently, but like overall, I'm pleased with the work I've done, and yeah, so it's. But I don't think at the time it was really that much of a concern, because you take it scene by scene, and when you know the story and the script as well as you get to know them over the course of doing a film, you kind of. It just becomes second nature. You know which scene you're doing the next day, and it kind of just slots into place. You know what's happening with your character at that point. You know, the interesting things are people like Alan Rickman, who knew his character arc from you know, a little while back. He knew Snape's eventual story. So I think for him, it was a much more delicate balancing act of trying to constantly inform the performance with what he knew would be happening ultimately.